Hey, what is happening, y'all? This is a non-spoiler review for The Magnificent Seven, which is a remake of The Seven Samurai. And I have a lot to say about this movie. I love Westerns, and not only do I like Westerns, but I like it when a Western has something to say. Because, that is one of the dying arts of today is the Western. I mean, it's pretty much dead, and now it's seeing a revival with the likes of Forsaken, directed by John Cassar of the 24 fame, who starred also Kiefer Sutherland of 24 fame. Also, Quentin Tarantino's two westerns, Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight. And there are a few others, but this film is directed by Antoine Fuqua, which, if you don't know, let me give you some of the movies he's directed. Training Day, King Arthur, just to name two that you should be well acquainted with. And also Olympus Has Fallen. So, if nothing else, the guy knows how to frame his action, and we've seen that evident. King Arthur, starring Clive Owen, produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, is probably one of my favorite films of all time. And Antoine Fuqua, again, shows us here with The Magnificent Seven that he is one of the greatest filmmakers working today. He really is. And I think that he's one of the filmmakers that is unappreciated because, you have Spielberg that's still working today and he's still banging out fantastic films. The same with Scorsese, and you have the upper echelon of the filmmaking world, but he's not far behind them. I put him and I put these directors really high. Antoine Fuqua, Gore Verbinski of Pirates 1, 2, and 3, and those guys, and there's a few others that like the Russo brothers that I put really high, like nipping at the heels of these greats, because they have created great films. And The Magnificent Seven, and again, well, not again, but let me explain, just a disclaimer. I've not seen Seven Samurai, and I have not seen the 1960 Magnificent Seven either. So the way I'm approaching this review is I'm looking at it just for what it is. And what is it? It's a Western, and that gives it predetermined guidelines to follow. How does it do with those guidelines? Does it say anything new? We know that we got Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight, both by Quentin Tarantino, and both which were amazing and lauded critically and by audiences because they had something fresh to say about a genre that most people thought was dead. And again, with Forsaken, directed by John Cassar, that was a movie that a lot of people didn't see. It was a movie that I rented at Redbox and fell in love with, and now I own it. And you guys have seen my discussion on the return of the cinematic Western, because those three films, it was kind of like the 1, 2, 3 strikes of this could happen again. A lot of people have, and I think not a lot of people, but Steven Spielberg has compared the superhero genre to the Western. I don't think that's a fair comparison, because the Western, there's only so much you can do with it. That being said, the way that you do Westerns nowadays, the way that it should be approached, is try to say something new, or try to say it not better, but in a different way than the great films of the past. And I'm looking at Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, those kind of characters, which not we, but our older generations fell in love with and grew up with. And I think The Magnificent Seven is it's definitely saying something, if I could put it this way. It's definitely not there just to cash a paycheck for the actors or the directors or the producers or the other people involved. It is a passion project. Whether or not it is a real passion project for Antoine Fuqua, I don't know, because he puts so much effort into his movies that everything seems like a passion project. And I loved it. One of the things that, and if you listen to my review of The Mechanic Resurrection, which was sadly my last movie I reviewed before this, you know how frustrated I am, and most people are too, with the action movie that you have to suspend disbelief when watching movies. But some movies are just dumb for the sake of being dumb, that they just didn't care to put enough effort into them to add some touches of reality. With The Magnificent Seven, this was remedied. And I mean, like, they slathered the Vicks Vapor Rub all over that. And for lack of a better analogy, because you saw, and I can't tell you how giddy I am that I saw people reloading their guns in a movie after having seen Mechanic Resurrection. And not just once, but twice and 3 times. And they gave it a believable amount of shots. I mean, this is a Western, so they're shooting the old-fashioned rifles, old-fashioned shotguns, and the 6-shooters. So, and I like that they took the time to show you, hey, we got to reload, we got to reload. That, for me, that I like common sense, and knowing how much we have gone away from common sense in filmmaking because people don't pay attention, that's my bread and butter. And just something simple like that, like showing characters reloading and not giving them 40 rounds of ammo in one pistol. It's beautiful, and it shows to me that the directors and the creators of this film cared enough about the material to leave in the common sense. And because of that, it's scoring high marks with me in this review, because things like that just it makes a world of difference. And you think it doesn't until you sit in a movie and you experience the latter, which is, oh, I don't care, so yeah, and he's shooting a pistol that should hold at the most around 10-12 shots. I like this movie because it's a return to common sense in filmmaking. And it goes back again. This director, Antoine Fuqua, I love this guy. And he is an auteur, a artist, and he loves the craft. And it is evident in the movies that he has made. Not all his movies are Oscar-worthy, but they're great films with great characters, great heart, and good twists, which is something I was really, really surprised at watching this movie. They really keep you guessing, especially in it all culminates in a final battle. That's not a spoiler, that's how Westerns work. But you're constantly kept guessing as to what's going to happen, and who's going to get axed, and who's going to survive, and I like that. I like not being able to tell which ones die and which ones don't. It's fantastic. It's good filmmaking that is lost to us, because you know that the people that are the most popular are probably not going to get killed. You might be surprised at who does make it out and who doesn't at the end of this movie. And I like that. Again, it's a return to surprises in filmmaking, because I think Hollywood as a whole, with all the reboots and the remakes and has gotten increasingly lazy with keeping audiences in guessing and keeping audiences at the edge of their seat from the time the fade-in happens or the cut-in to the time the credits roll. And this movie did that. Not only did it do that and keep me guessing throughout the film, which top marks Antoine Fuqua, but it also was a great character piece. I love films that give you great characters so that by the time that you're at that final battle, and this is the bread and butter of the Western genre, and you notice this in Hateful Eight as well. you do not know who's going to die in Minnie's haberdashery, and the whole movie is you trying to figure out who is going to die. The westerns, they all play the same, but at the same time, you can make it incredibly fresh by doing what Quentin Tarantino does and what Antoine Fuqua did here. And that is give us great characters that we love or that we love to hate, so that when all the action starts to go down, you are either rooting for these characters to die, or and I mean that meaning that you're rooting for the villain to die and get his comeuppance, and you're rooting for the heroes to make it out alive, but you know some of them aren't, but you're trying to guess which ones, and that is why I go to the cinema. That is why I love the movies that I love, and that is why I review movies, because I want a movie that keeps me caring for what I see on the screen, that keeps me focused, that keeps me engaged, that makes me not want to miss a second of it, because I know that that second that I miss, if I get up to get some popcorn or to use the restroom, whatever, it is going to take away from the film experience. And I'm so happy that The Magnificent Seven was a return to beautiful form for Hollywood as a whole. And I'm hoping that movies catch on. I did a review for Civil War, my second thoughts review, which I review a movie that I've already reviewed, but I get the DVD. And, you get it after a few months, so you can you've had time to simmer and think through it, and then you give second thoughts. With Civil War, and just to draw a comparison, I can say the same things for Civil War that I just did for Magnificent Seven. They made you care. Now, the MCU does it via the entire universe and all of their interconnected properties, but they make you care about the characters. They put them in situations where you're like, oh boy, how are they going to get out of this one? Or who's going to make it out? And it keeps you guessing. Now, I know sometimes when they bring back characters like they do in the MCU, it can get a little boring. But I think there's a payoff here later. And I think that if you watch the entire MCU as a movie, as a cohesive movie, it will make sense in the end. And at least the first three phases, because we're leading to a certain point, and you know what that is. But just like that, where you care about the characters, you want to see what's coming up next, you want to see who lives, who dies, you're at the edge of your seat. That was The Magnificent Seven for me. Denzel Washington knocks it out of the park, but it for him, that's a day at the office. Chris Pratt is awesome. I mean, I like his cowboy, and it does. I mean, it echoes back to a lot of Star-Lord, but at the same time, that's who Chris Pratt is, and I like that it's kind of like what Robert Downey Jr. did with Tony Stark, where he puts himself into the character, and it's kind of hard to differentiate, but that's why it's so good. And I like what Chris Pratt does. I'm actually looking forward to a movie that I saw the trailer for right before Magnificent Seven, which is Passengers, starring Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence, because I'm excited to see what he does there. But he was excellent. Ethan Hawke is a guy that I've watched some of his movies, and then I watched, what was it called? It's the movie, and I'm going to put it as an annotation because I can't remember. It was with Robin Williams, and they were all kids. He was a kid in the movie. Gosh, I can't remember what it's called. Dead Poet Society. Dead Poet Society. When I saw Dead Poet Society, I was like, oh my gosh, this dude is awesome. And I know I'd seen him in movies before, but that was the first one that got me to think, this dude is a legend. And in this movie, it was no different. I like the character he played, and I like how they treated his character. Young hun-lee's character was fantastic. It was, it's for the PC crowd, Asian American cowboy. For everybody else, it's an Asian dude in a cowboy film. And it was awesome because, of course, he's gonna be the close fighter, and with the knives, and that was fantastic. They had another guy who's his first name is Manuel. The actor's first name is Manuel, who was a Hispanic guy. Really cool. He was the one that I didn't know the most about, but at the same time, they gave him enough moments where even if you don't remember who the actor is, because the actor's not that well known, you remember, hey, this guy had some great moments, and that's what this movie does. Vincent D'Onofrio. The dude was funny. He did a voice the entire movie, which I know for some that can be a little bit grating, and I know it can be a little bit annoying. For me, it was funny because I'm used to seeing, this is Kingpin from Daredevil, from the Daredevil Netflix show. This is Hoskins from Jurassic World. This dude is a tough dude. And to see him, he's still tough and he's hulking, and and they play that up. But at the same time, he gives it this voice, and it's just like, this is so funny, and it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. I don't think. Sensmeier is the last name of the actor. He plays a Native American. The dude was great. It was It was one of those dignified heroes that you're kind of like, he came into the battle because he's there for the sake of protecting people, and they give him a lot of gravitas that way, and self-respect that way. And I like that. I like how he was treated as a character. Peter Saarsgard, I thought, he was a villain. He was there for us to hate him. And I like that because he does a good job at that. And the first scene of this movie, they're tearing down this church. And that's all I'm going to say about the first scene of this movie. They're tearing down this church. He's there. He's being despicable. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want you to die. I want you to die. And I want Chris Pratt and Denzel Washington and all of them to kill you. And he does what the character requires, and he enjoyed it. I like it when bad guys enjoy it, like Loki, for example. The dude is enjoying being Loki. And the great villains that we've seen, like Joker, I'm talking about Heath Ledger's Joker, the reason why they're so good is because the person playing the character is having so much fun and has taken a dive so deep into the character that you are enjoying seeing him and knowing that you're going to die, and I'm going to enjoy watching that on screen. And he did a great job. Now, do I put him in the same category as Loki and as Heath Ledger's Joker? No. But I made the comparison to say this. Just like they were successful, and they're successful because they enjoy the characters they play, he's successful here in what he does because he enjoys the character he's playing. The story was great. I like that Westerns are very simple. And because they're very simple, they lend to character-based stories. So, which is, again, the bread and butter of the Western genre. You're caring about the characters that are on the screen so that when all the action on the hullabaloo breaks out, you are concerned and you're guessing and wondering who's going to make it out, who's not going to make it out. And I love that about this movie. They have great moments of character, great introductions for all of the characters. Some of the character introductions were a hoot. Just fantastic and funny, and it excelled beyond my wildest dreams. I cannot talk more about the movie. The action was shot fantastically. There is a shot in this film. Just let me say this. The Western thrives, and again, going back to bread and butter of Western, scenery. Because you're in the Wild West, so you're going to shoot your scenery. And a director that understands the Western genre is going to give these sweeping landscapes that you don't see in movies very often. And you enjoy that. Even in the claustrophobic The Hateful Eight, whenever they were outside, you got these sweeping snow-capped mountains, and it was beautiful. And you enjoyed seeing it at IMAX because you're like, oh my gosh, this is so greatly shot. Same here. Same with Forsaken with John Cazale. The movie was beautiful, and the Magnificent Seven here is the same. It was beautifully shot. There was one shot in the movie that I loved because it's at the end of the battle, and I'm not giving any spoilers away here. The army is charging, and I don't know if they put a camera on a horse or it was on a crane, but it felt like you were riding a horse. But they did this pan shot of the entire army, and you can tell it's people, or if it's not people, they did a really good job on their CGI. But they're coming at you, but you're panning this way. So imagine, like, let me frame it here. You're coming from over here, going this way. Here's your army, so coming out here. So they're coming. So let's say they're up here. I'm trying to frame the shot here for you guys. They're coming this way, right? You're coming this way, and the whole time you feel like putting a horse in front of this army that's charging at this town, and it's gonna go down. And it was such a beautiful shot. I don't know what it was, just the motion of the shot, the way that it made sense and what the context of the shot was. It made you pay attention to this shot that was in the movie. And I like shots like that that aren't superfluous but make sense and take advantage of what they're shooting and how they're shooting it to such a degree that it beckons you to notice how beautiful what you're looking at is, and you're wondering how in the world did they do that. And I love that. And Antoine Fuqua was no stranger to that, because when he shot King Arthur, he had so many cameras mounted every which way on horses and shields, and it was great. And he did the same thing here. He knows how to shoot his action, and that's evident in King Arthur, Olympus Has Fallen, and here. The guy is an auteur, and I loved it. It was an excellent movie. I definitely recommend it, and I hope you guys go and see it and support this film. I love Denzel Washington. I love Chris Pratt. That have personal reasons, as well as they're awesome actors, for liking them, and I think you should support this movie. I cannot talk more about this movie and praise it more, because it was I could never stop if I did that. It was so good. Go and check it out. You will definitely enjoy it, and I think this is definitely one I'm going to buy on Blu-ray, because that was excellent. Anyway, this has been Movie Critic Rob with the Movie Channel, and as always, I'm signing off.